Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Matchup Report. Thank you all for tuning in again. I'm Tyler Blankenship alongside Jason Davis. As always, we're here ready to talk some NBA. Excited as we're getting closer to the playoffs here. There's still a lot going on. Some debuts happening currently as we're recording, and some debuts happening soon that we maybe weren't expecting. But yeah, excited to talk some NBA. We will, of course, review some of the games that we were talking about watching previous episode. We'll preview some more matchups that we're looking forward to here coming up soon. And then we'll have our shoot around where we just talk about NBA topics and just basketball in general, whatever we're feeling we want to talk about. So can't wait for that. But Jay, let's jump straight into it, man. What was the first game you wanted to talk about?
So we had a couple of obviously naturally good ones, and one of the teams in particular we were taking a look at was New York. So I'll start with them and just reviewing how their past couple of games went because I think it only kind of to some degree they reassured a lot of the doubts that we might have had about them. At the same time, I think those same issues are still problems, if that makes any sense. This past week, well, I'll start with they lost to Cleveland on the 24th, but then they were able to beat Milwaukee and San Antonio, and then Toronto as well, but then lost to OKC last night. So kind of uneven stretch where it's like you lose to two top contenders, but at the same time you're able to beat a top rising contender in San Antonio, which was one of the games that we particularly were taking a look at. And in that game, it wasn't just a like breeze by win. It was a confident 114-89 win over them. And I think we saw that the Knicks just looked comfortable in this game. And they came in with, a mentality of how to attack the Spurs, and they did that really well. Spurs came into this game on an 11-game win streak, and I think we saw that it didn't really matter with the way the Knicks just came out and played. It wasn't just typically when you look at these type of games, it would be a Jalen Brunson, 30, 40 piece. But he had 24. Mikal Bridges had 25. He hit 5 threes in that game. Everyone that started for them finished in double figures. So it was a collective effort. Just looking at the box score and seeing that everything just went into this.
Yeah.
I can
Jared
say it like
McCain
that.
and Isaiah Joe starting for a championship team. It's beautiful to see. Love it. Yeah, it's great. This week pissed me off with the Thunder, man. I'm not gonna lie.
I left out the Thunder for right. We're focusing on the Knicks, okay?
I know, but you
Just
brought
the
them
Knicks.
up in the game
Look,
that they played against the
why are
Knicks
you doing this already? Look, we are less
because
than
your
five
name,
minutes
your
in.
name, it still has Jared McCain on it, and I was just like,
We
you're
are less
talking
than
about
5 minutes
OKC.
in, and here you go. Well, I mean, New York played well, but oh my God, I hate
No,
OKC. Oh, OKC sucks. Oh my
see, this is
goodness.
where you get me wrong. This isn't OKC hate. This is Sixers hate.
Okay, fair enough.
Which I mean, come on, obviously that's every episode now. But all right, no, but yeah, going for the Knicks, like because that Knicks Spurs game was like it was very good. It was a pretty entertaining game. It started off really slow for New York too. Like it was like they got down. It was a Vassell who was just hitting shots right away, and it was just like okay, like it was like an early lead for the Spurs. The Knicks were coming out kind of like looking lackadaisical. It felt like it was just like wake up, and then Mike Brown like I don't know what he said to him after that first time out, but like Jalen Brunson got going, and once Jalen Brunson got going, and he was hitting all the shots, and it was a lot of middies. Like it looked like they were kind of like it was a lot of drives in, but then they would just sort of like almost do like an Iverson cut and get to like an elbow and just start taking all these middies, and they were going in, and then Brunson was just hitting pull up threes off of transition and off of just half court sets in general. Like he would just do a quick screen and then hit these like threes. And once New York got the lead, they never lost it. Like earlier, like it was like halfway through that first quarter. It's just they never looked back. And like it was a lot of effort from. It wasn't just Brunson. Like Brunson got them going. Like he's the whole reason they even got that lead in the first place. And were able to like get this momentum. But then it was also guys like Josh Hart and Alvarado who are just almost like copies of each other in some ways, with just the energy they bring to the team. Especially Hart, man. Like there were so many times in this game where I was watching, where I was like, oh, there's Hart again, like just getting an offensive rebound, and there's Hart again making the right pass, or getting the deflections. Like he's just everywhere on the floor making something happen. And it was a large part why they were able to stay in this game. And the Spurs, man, they just went cold. Like they just were missing so many shots. It was actually kind of hard to watch at one point. But you got to give credit to New York. Their defense was aggressive. They were closing out pretty hard and everything. They weren't giving them anything, the Spurs anything easy to do. And you can say that like the Spurs had 22 turnovers in this game, And it was just impressive to watch the Knicks like go like this against a contender after we started to have some questions recently, like you said.
Yeah, and I think especially when you look at, I don't know, obviously the Knicks played well, but they were able to capitalize a lot off of the Spurs' issues, which were the lack of supporting help around Wemby. When Wemby is scoring 25, Stephon Castle, you said Denver still had a good game, and I agree with that. He shot 50%, finished with 18 points, but De'Aaron Fox finished with 7 points, and Stephon Castle finished with 13 points. And I think we talked about this last episode where it's like a part of Stephon Castle's development is more the offensive side and him developing a better jumper, him being able to contribute to help space the floor for Wemby so that, when Wemby, his gravitational aura and he's drawing all these players towards him, he's able to have options on the wing or top of the key or wherever it be to help the flow of the Spurs offense. De'Aaron Fox is supposed to be this player that we've seen that from. He's established and he has the option to do that. But the Knicks just took him out of the game, which I think was clearly the right approach to this. And they just did what they needed to win this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Then just the final thing with the Knicks, like it was the off ball movement and like how they were trailing like a lot of people that were making these drives. It was like it felt like because obviously with the Spurs defense, it's like it's kind of like four out and then like Wemby is just sort of there in a drop, like just roaming the whole area. Which obviously, if you're Wemby, that's like kind of like the right move to do, and it usually works for them. But the Knicks were doing a good job of kind of like attacking that and waiting for his first like initial reaction, and then making the pass or the shot based off of what he was doing. It was like if he took a step back, they were pulling up from the elbow like immediately, and if he was taking a step forward, there was like usually a cut or a guy following behind who could get the ball and then make an easy layup or do whatever they need to do. Not always easy because Wemby can recover, but I mean, it was just nice to see them like they weren't backing off. Like they were attacking, which is what you want to see with a team like this. So, but then of course you get to the other games of the week and you're like, okay, we're kind of back to some of the old habits. But yeah, it was a good game where it was like, okay, they've lost the series to Detroit. We've seen them struggle with some other better competition, but to go against the Spurs like this and show that they can attack a defense like that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and like you said, I think the biggest thing is that this it felt like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Like it very much is like, okay, I'll still say it's 3 steps forward because they did win 3 straight games. But I do think that it's like, all right, every time you start to build momentum, you then lose to another top contending team, and then the question started again of, oh well, can you beat these top teams? And this was a discussion last year. They couldn't get over the hump with the Celtics and everything, and it was like, oh, like you can't just turn it on in the playoffs. They did just turn it on in the playoffs. So I think a lot of probably the Knicks organization and the Knicks fans are thinking it's very much a similar thing where it's like no matter what happens, we get to the playoffs and we can be a different team that's able to win these games. But at the same time, like down the stretch, these games determine a lot of what the playoffs look like, a lot of the playoff matchups, and a lot of the testing rotations and stuff. It's a big like testing scenario for everybody and really trying to predict what the playoffs will look like. And I don't want to say the Knicks are failing at it because they're still, playing good, but it's like, all right, like there's still a lot of question marks. And if you can stop certain things or if you can capitalize on certain things that your team does well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I because we've been talking about like the top end, and we'll be talking about a few teams for the top of the East here throughout the show. But like it's been a constant discussion for us because it's been like Detroit up top, and then like we were expecting New York and Cleveland to kind of like be better versions of themselves, and then Boston has surprised us all season. It feels like, and then so it's been kind of the question with the Knicks so all year is like, can you play consistent? Like you got the new coach, you've added some new rotation players, you're actually using your depth because Tibbs wouldn't do that. So it's been like you said, them figuring out these rotations. But it is also March 5th now as we're recording, so it's kind of time to figure out like who is your bench guys. Like, right, are you gonna give Jordan Clarkson minutes again? Tyler Kolek, who was hooping for you in the beginning of the year, it's been kind of weird to see them just kind of not do anything lately. Like Landry Shamit's like taking a lot of those minutes, where it's like games like against OKC where it's like, hey, you need a bucket. Can Jordan Clarkson come? Like, isn't this why you signed him? This guy is like a certified bucket getter. So I don't know. It's been weird still. It's just like you think they have it figured out, and then you're like, okay, well now you like you said, like they take a couple steps back, but it's like it's in the margins. They're getting better just slowly, but it's also we're getting closer to playoffs now, so it's time to actually figure this stuff out.
3 steps forward and 2 steps back is still a step forward, but at the same time, you look at it and you're like, this should be a team that is constantly taking a lot more steps forward and constantly putting themselves in a better position, especially at this point in the season.
100%. All right, ready for the next game? All right, so yeah, that was actually also my first game, so we got that one down for both of us. I my next game was actually Sixers against Boston, and I'll make this one quick because the game was also quick. It was over pretty quick, at least. So I picked this game because it was really just like, okay, like the Sixers have been struggling. Like they had that West Coast trip where they did well enough, but then since then they've just looked exhausted. It feels like it just physically and maybe even like emotionally they're just like drained. And this game was like a perfect example of it. I mean, there was just no shooting. It seems like, and this is true for the past week or two. It feels like where since Embiid's been kind of like coming back from this oblique or labrum, like I forget exactly what it is with him, but he's been dealing with like a shoulder kind of issue, I think. And since he's been out, we're seeing a lot of the struggles with the Sixers again, where there's a lack of depth. Like Campaign's getting a lot of minutes. Kelly Oubre will be out a game, and then you've got like Jabari Walker starting games, and then it's just there's a lack of shooting, man. Outside of Maxi, and unless VJ Edgecombe can like light it up with him, it's like no one else is hitting shots besides him, and that's where Quentin Grimes is supposed to step up. But he's like has games where recently he's like he only has 5 points, where it's like how is this happening when you're getting basically all the backup guard minutes and you're heavily in the rotation? How are we only getting 5 points and no shooting from you guys? I called out the closeouts. Like the we know Boston's going to shoot the threes. Sixers were just having a hard time fighting through the screens and getting to the spots to like, contest a lot of these shots. Boston was putting up a lot of those. The rebound difference in this was crazy, and that's where a lot of this is too. It's like Drummond is just like in the second half of the season has just not looked good at all. But Bona hasn't been getting enough minutes in my mind because of that. Obviously, you're without Embiid, who's a factor in this, but like Keita had his like career high in this game where he had 27 points and 17 boards. 10 of those were O boards. Like you just can't allow that as a team. But the total rebound discrepancy was 37 rebounds for the Sixers to 59 for the Celtics. Like you get that many extra possessions, of course, like you're going to be able to dominate the way they did because, I mean, they killed the Sixers in this game. Yeah, Keita had it was just, and then the turnovers too. It's like Boston had more turnovers, but they just because they were outboarding you like crazy. It felt like every possession, you weren't able to get the second chance opportunities, and Boston ran away with this pretty easily. And I am officially worried about the Sixers. I'm not gonna lie. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the play-in tournament instead, and like they're gonna lose the sixth seed.
I think I'm still confident that I think, like I said last week, I think the top six of the Eastern Conference will relatively stay the same. Might be some like movement shifting of like like actual like places, but I do think like I still think the Sixers are a top six team. But at the same time, it's like you do start to continue to see these same issues, and I like at this point in the season, like and this is I think a question that I always crosses my mind is like, what can you do at this point of the season besides like shorten the rotations and just hope that things just work out. Like, do you think there's any other possible solutions to this or anything?
I mean, at this point, it's just get healthy, right? Get Embiid back soon, hopefully this next week, because he was only supposed to be out like for like a few games. It sounded like, and then you get Paul George back probably at the end of the month, and then that's really all you could do at this point. There was nothing else. There were. It
You
was,
feel so defeated. It's okay.
there were apparently moves they were trying to make, which we'll get to later. Everything quickly fell apart for this team by the trade after the trade deadline. It feels like they just haven't been the same team, and it's. I mean, that's the disappointing part has been just the lack of depth, and that the depth pieces that you currently have are not performing well or the way you would have wanted them to. And then so now you are relying on guys like Cam Payne and Jabari Walker, who should be like ninth, 10th kind of guys in rotation to give you solid minutes. So it's it's the future is bleak. I'll just say that.
I mean, okay, and this is where I'll push back a little bit, and like yes,
Please
I
do like
understand.
make me feel positive about this team.
You still have a Tyrese Maxey who, yes, like I think we're waiting for him to kind of plateau from his like crazy start to the season, and I think he kind of has. But you're still starting to see like he's still putting up crazy numbers. You have VJ Edgecombe, who once again kind of similar to Maxey in the fact that he's plateaued, but you still see the potential. Like, I understand there's a lot of like besides them, like there's a lot to figure out, but I still think like looking at the future for like I think the immediate future is like murky. I think that's where like I can understand hesitation. I can understand. I don't know what's going to happen with this team. I don't know where things are going to be at. Just with how many questions there are. Like how much longer does Embiid have? How much longer does Paul George have? There's way too many question marks in the immediate future of the next couple months. But I think when you look beyond that, I still think that you have a very solid foundation for a potential team for the future. But it just at the same time though, and this is where I'll agree with you, is that this still is a Sixers organization and they still find ways to mess this up. And that's where I'm like, well, you have great pieces that you could build off of and you can surround them with talent. Will they is the question. I don't know.
When I tell you, dude, I had a moment within the last couple of days where I literally was like, I don't know if I can root for this team like the rest of this season because it's to a point where I am over everyone coach up. Like coaching staff, I'm over that. I'm over the front office. I'm over the ownership. Everyone's been over the ownership for a while now, and it hasn't gotten better since certain things have been released. So it's not great, man. It's because, and I was gonna wait to get into this later, but since we're here, it was reported like yesterday or the past couple of days that Daryl Morey, like during the trade deadline, was basically going big game hunting and trying to get like another star to the rotation. So he was apparently trying to get Kawhi Leonard, according to Mark Stein. And it's just like the whole thing was that like this is what pissed me off about Daryl Morey. He's still stuck in like 2015 where everyone thinks you have to have like a big three, and he still I swear to God that the Warriors gave him PTSD, dude, from his time with the Rockets, where it's like he's still chasing that like we got to have these stars. I got to fight Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and like all these guys. It's like, dude, it's okay. Like the present day NBA is you need depth, and what you all you did at the trade deadline was get rid of depth that could have been a future star talent that is now starting for a championship team, by the way, and getting nearly 20 points a game since he's been there. And so was Isaiah Joe, the other guy who traded to them. But those could have been two great rotational pieces for your team that is lacking shooting, and those are two guys who kind of are good at shooting. But so you get
Kinda
rid of
are
players
good.
like that.
Okay.
So you get rid of players like that all the time and get rid of your depth to always try and go get the stars, right? Like you got the Paul George. You were trying to go get Kawhi Leonard, which also, how would that trade have even worked? You would have had to get rid of more depth. What were we going to do? Roll out Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and Kawhi Leonard? That's the starting lineup you're going to go for? Okay, cool. Who is starting behind them? Like, who is left on the team after you probably had to trade for Kawhi in his big ass
Don't
contract?
worry, you'd have time to suit up.
And what Arbery company is nearby in Philly that was going to help you pay the contract for Kawhi Leonard anyway? So it's just like, dude, I'm so over this team and how stuck in the past they seem to be. How it's duck the tax, but they do it in the worst way. It's like you could have gotten rid of Drummond, who's struggling to do the one thing he was supposed to be good at, which is getting boards. But we get rid of young talent that could have helped us in the future. For what? For a team that they didn't even like reportedly, because same thing in the report said like they didn't think this team was fully good enough to like contend for a championship, which is why they're trying to get Kawhi Leonard. Well, you didn't get him, and you made the team worse in the process. So now what? Like that's just where we're at. And then you have Maxi talking after games, still saying like, "Yeah, it was hard. Like we're getting rid of McCain. Like it was rough for the locker room." And it's just like, brother, like this team is starting to like depress me. It's like I'm a man without a country. Like I don't know who to root for because the Blazers have been pissing me off a lot too, and they're usually my backup. Where it's like, okay, like I got the Sixers, but like I got my West Coast over to your team. I can root for, and then now they're pissing me off, and it's just like, yeah, it feels like a therapy session more than anything right now. But like,
You know,
man, I just
I didn't want to say it, but it definitely does. Like, especially when we get to this point, like of the season, where it's like we're past the hope, we're past the low, and then we're past the second, initial hope of this team, could be good. That second hump ended the moment the Paul George suspension was announced, and I think ever since then it's just been downhill.
I agree, and I said when that happened too. There's always something stupid that happens with this team every year. It's always and it's always like they find new ways. There's always a new way for the team to be stupid and to embarrass me and the city of Philadelphia. And this year, it's Paul George getting suspended for something stupid and them just like fumbling at the trade deadline so bad that they're now like getting made fun of every week. Like every game that McCain has like 15 plus points or just like has one good moment with the Thunder, and they're all vibing and having a great time on the bench and post
He's
game.
barking in the
Yeah,
video,
and like
the post game
the post
interviews.
game like interviews, it's like they're all having a good time. He's smiling, and I'm like in a dark corner in my room with like one lamp on, just like having the Stanley Kubrick stare, just like pissed off. Like it's not great, man. It's not a great image.
Every time I see any positive Jared McKay moment, I instantly fire it off to the WIP sports director here, Max Blakelock, and he's probably so sick of me, and I purposely do it every time now, cause like just to get to him, and I sent him the one of Maxie talking about it. He's like, yo, we miss like we miss McCain, and he was like, bro, I do too. I can't even lie.
We all
And
do.
I
We
was like,
missed him the moment it happened.
yeah, I get it. I can't say I've been there before because like as much as I can sit here and try to pretend the OKC 2020 start of 2020 years were terrible, they were not as bad as anything the Sixers have gone through. There's a reason I stopped being a Sixers fan when I was like very young and in the trust the process years because that team it sucks the soul out of you. They're dementors. If anyone watches Harry Potter,
Did you just make a Harry Potter reference?
I love Harry Potter. We're not doing this. No, you're not gonna sit here
Jesus.
and make fun of me over this. I love Harry Potter.
Hey, love what you want, I guess, but good lord. All right, that's like your one for the year. God,
One for the year? What?
I don't think
I
you're
get
gonna
one
say.
Harry Potter reference a year? Or is it just one like personal that's crazy. You're restricting my like what I can like it's just all sports. Like this is
It
why
doesn't
like
have to be all sports. It's just Harry
this
Potter.
is this is this is why
We
podcasts
were
don't grow
just
because
making fun of
we
millennials.
don't see the personality of the host. And I sit here and I go like, oh yeah, I like Harry Potter. And
We
you
were
go,
making fun of millennials before the show started, like off air, basically. And then we're like 20 minutes into the show. And you got to make a Harry Potter
I
reference.
love Harry Potter though. Like I was like it's different though.
Don't say it like
I
that.
grew up with Harry Potter.
I love Harry Potter.
I have no regrets about this. Like
Look, look, look.
I dressed up as Harry Potter when I was in what was it first grade, little glasses, the scar, and everything. So I look, I this has been who I've been.
It's
Keep
more
telling it.
fatigue on my. It's more fatigue on my end. Like
I understand that.
I'm very over Harry Potter. It's not. I don't hate it. I'm just. It's very. It's too much.
It is like everywhere now. And it used to be like a fun like oh like I'm a Harry Potter fan. I read the books like oh yeah maybe watch the movies and now it's like everybody's like something Harry Potter related.
I will
All
say
this to say
Hagrid's ride at Universal is a sick ass roller coaster.
I've never been and I really want to
Wow,
go.
I thought you were a
That's
Harry
like
Potter fan. That's crazy.
oh I'm sorry I didn't have that much time on my hands.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You've got a couple more years of traversing the world than me. That's all it is.
That's what we'll call
Um,
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
See, I could have took that a completely different direction.
Yeah.
I kept it respectful, even if you want to take shots about Harry Potter.
Oh,
All to
and that's
say,
personal for you. Got it. All right, let's
it
move
is,
on.
it is.
Nah, hey, hey.
I look once again. I love Harry Potter, and I took it personally. Okay, seriously though.
Yeah, next game.
Next
Next
game,
game. Next
Cleveland
game.
and Detroit. This Cleveland team, they lost to Detroit the first time on the 27th, but then they were able to recover and beat them on the third. Both games were really close. And in the first one, it's crazy that like the Pistons won this first game, and typically I think when we would look at Pistons games and specifically the season, you'd sit here and say, "Oh, it was a Cade Cunningham, masterpiece." And this first Cleveland game was more of a Jalen Durant masterpiece. He scored 33 points, 16 rebounds in this game, and really just like as the stat line kind of says, dominated the rebounding aspect of this. The Cavs had 41 rebounds to the Pistons 56, and it's difficult to win win games like that naturally when you're being beaten on the boards that bad. But this was like it. This was a game that went to overtime. It wasn't just any type of like, oh, the Detroit just dominated the boards and then dominated the pace of the game. It was a like back and forth, really entertaining game.
Yeah, and they played each other twice, and I would say, all right, so because we talked a lot last show about like what like the depth of the Cleveland Cavaliers now, right? Like after they made this trade, like all the guards that they got, And I think in games like this against Detroit, you can see where that is shining through because they've been dealing with some injuries lately now too, where it's like Harden has this like fractured thumb, right? In his left,
Yeah.
it's in his non-shooting hand, which is always like a good sign. But I think what we have seen it affect his like handling. I think like he had a couple turnovers where it looked like he just straight up like lost the ball, and it was like, yeah, and look, sometimes that just happens. I mean, we just saw a player hit like a rainbow last night, like a Ronaldo rainbow. I was like, what the hell am I looking at? Shout out your boy.
Not just Austin, not just any player. It was Rob
Yeah,
Dillingham.
I was about to be
I
like,
gotta work
I
with
don't know if I
that.
want to call him out by name because it's your guy, but yeah, he's also on the Bulls, so I feel like that just happens the moment you get there. But yeah, so it's like you see some crazy turn, but like you have to wonder, like that fractured thumb. Like I was hoping they would give him more time to recover. Like I didn't understand why he was playing so quickly again, but uh, I don't know. I think my main takeaway so far, like this last week with Cleveland, is that like okay, they really are like we kind of hinted at it last show, but they really are starting to look more like the team we thought they were going to be as they get healthier with Mobley and Jared Allen both out there getting minutes. Like Jared Allen, like having this resurgence since February has been amazing for them. He was even before Harden got there, but like especially since Harden has gotten there, his offense and his presence on the floor on defense are always like a positive now. And then you have Mobley over there, who defensive player of the year stuff, and he's been getting better. His shooting has maybe gone down a little bit, but he is still like a very effective offensive player, like high and down low. But then when you have everyone else out there, it's just this team looks good, man. Like I don't know how else to explain it. They move quick. They attack you on defense now. Like they're not just easy to blow by like they were earlier in the year, where it looked like there was always like miscommunications. They were just kind of standing around. Now everyone's just attacking, and Schroeder and Keon Nelson have just seemingly like fit right into this system, and it makes them an exciting team going into the playoffs. And they're right on the heels of the Knicks. Like they're now fighting for that like third spot. They're a half a game behind them. And I expect them to kind of go back and forth with that. And who knows, maybe they can catch up to Boston too if they're going to lose to teams like the Hornets who have been surging. But like like that top the 2 to 4 situation there within the East is getting really interesting.
Yeah. And this first Detroit matchup against, well, first time Cleveland played Detroit this past week, they didn't have Donovan Mitchell, they didn't have James Harden, and so it's crazy the fact that they were able to push Detroit to overtime. And a game like that where you're without your two leading scorers and two dictators of your entire offense. And yes, you still have your defensive identity. You still had Jared Allen. You still had Evan Mobley. But I think you got more from them on the offensive end. Jared Allen 25, Evan Mobley 23, and Mero scored 20 for you. So like these are all things that you can take away from this and say yes, like our depth is even if we're not winning a game like this against a Detroit team, we went into it undermanned and still came on the other end, knowing that our depth can hold. And it's very much like any other team that we see that's competitive is that they have the depth to really, say, all right, you're going to go out there and start, and it may be against the number one team in your conference. All right, we lost, but it was an overtime victory or overtime loss. We pushed them to the max, and we saw that we were capable of competing with them, even if we don't have Donovan Mitchell, even if we don't have a James Harden.
Yeah, and it's important to test yourself against teams like that because I think it tests those teams where it's like Detroit is that had a couple games where it's like is their depth all the way there. So when you can test that against them, where you're like you're just saying like our depth was able to hold up against the starters of Detroit, like that has to like put a really good feeling in your locker room. Like no one likes to lose, but like the big picture of it is like hey, like we can keep up with these guys and we didn't even have our best people out there. So like that has to feel good going into April. All right. Next game. Do you want to go to the next one or should I go?
You go ahead.
Okay, so I had it was the Wolves and the Nuggets, which wasn't that one of yours too? I think we both might have had
No,
this one.
that was actually it was yes.
Yeah, so this one my first note on this one was like, man, Denver really misses Aaron Gordon. Like we already kind of like talked about this before. It's like, man, they kind of miss him. I was watching this game, I was like, oh no, they need him. Like I was like, okay, because dude, all right. First and foremost, I said the main thing I want to look at this game because I've been watching a lot of Minnesota lately, and I've been kind of catching up on some Denver, especially since Jokic got healthy again. Um, their depth is lacking a little bit, but they're also still dealing with issues outside of Aaron Gordon. Like Peyton Watson, I think could be a big help for them. But dude, their defense was one of the main things I want to look at in this game, and it was bad since they got like Desumu and they're like Bones Highland's been like getting more minutes in there. Like the transition offense has like kicked up a notch. Like Anthony Edwards even made a comment about it. He said he hates playing that way. Like he hates playing fast and like having to run down the like sprint down the court like that in transition. But he says players like Desumu and Bones Highland are kind of like forcing him to play that way. And you saw it in this game, man, where it was like they got the ball in transition and it was like kick it up as fast as possible. Like Bones Highland is immediately looking like, okay, who's sprinting up? And it usually is a guy like Sumu, and like they're trying to make those back cuts or like get the easy shot up like right away. And it looked extremely easy against Denver because their defense could not handle anything in transition. Like everyone was just getting blown by, just kind of standing around and watching, or it would just be like one guy down there just like being like, okay, it's 3-on-1 or 2-on-1, and you're like they're in an impossible position because Denver just wouldn't get back. And so it led to a lot of really easy points for Minnesota, specifically in this game, man. Like it was tough to watch Denver like play this way. Like we talk about how bad their defense can be at times. Like I think let me see here. According to Clean the Glass, they are 22nd overall on the year on defense. It has been slightly better over the past couple of weeks, but slightly better is like okay, now you're like 14th, so you're like average. But I mean, your defense throughout the entire season has been one, but that's also been lagging the past couple of weeks at 10. And I think a large part of that is because they're just kind of getting ran off the court sometimes with speed, and they can't keep up. And then part of the way they can't keep up is shooting, and that's where also like they're not getting consistent shots up, or they're just breaking everything, creating these easy like rebounds for the team to go out and transition. And I think that's also where Aaron Gordon helps because he is a good rebounder, because he is a great shooter. Like his presence when he comes back, I think will make like a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think in both aspects, not just the defense, but also the 3-point shooting. In this game, Denver shot 6 or 22 from three, which for people who aren't good at math, which I'm not, that's 27%, which is well below what you're looking for to win a game against a top team like Minnesota. I think I agree with you on everything, but I think like once again this says a lot more about Denver than it does Minnesota, where it's like yes we not to say that we expected this from Minnesota, but this is part of the development of them phasing in Io and them trying to we talk about it with the Knicks starting to find rhythm and start to ramp into what we expect from you from the remainder of the season and the playoffs. Denver's following that formula of being that team that is able to be capable, even if you do have Anthony Edwards, beefing with the coach about who's taking shots and stuff.
It was a cool moment though. It was
Yeah,
a cool moment.
but I think so many times we praise players, or we praise Kobe for having this elite mentality of never passing the ball, always being the one to take these shots. And then when we see players have that mentality and do it now, it's like, oh, whoa, 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 like like what are you doing? And I think it's to some degree, I think it's like the same way we talk about NFL players and needing to have a receiver that's a diva. It's the fact that it's like, get me the ball and I'll make the play. And I very much view that as a player like Anthony Edwards. Like, he can be that diva at times where it's not demonstrative to your team because it is an issue. We're not hearing, John Morant stuff off the court. Well, to some degree we aren't, at least anymore. I think Ant's grown up a lot. But I think there's nothing there's nothing that we're hearing, at least that we are, that it's like a locker room disruption where he's causing chaos and everything. Like, it is very much a on the court, get me the ball, I'm trying to win us the game type of situation. And I think that bodes well when you have an entire team that kind of fits around him and it supports him in the best way possible. And two, you have the depth that can allow you to do that. You can go deep into your bench and have a Bones Highland come off the bench and score 18 points for you. Like, these are things that we see this team capable of, and they're being coached well by Chris Finch as well. So it all just seems like Minnesota's heading in the right direction, while Denver is very much like it feels like they're like. I hate when teams think they're a lot closer to competing than they actually are. Not to say that Denver isn't a competing team, because Nikola Jokic instantly makes you a competing team. At the same time, it feels like the past couple seasons, it's been like, all right, our roster's good. Let's instantly revamp it, minus a small couple changes. And I think on paper, the Cam Johnson, Michael Porter trade looked good. And I think ironically, the Nets have somehow come out better from that. And I don't even think the Nets meant to do that.
Dude, the Cam Johnson experience has been rough.
Yes. And then you look at how Michael Porter Jr. has been playing in Brooklyn, which, to be fair, he's given the entire keys to the
30 shots a game.
Yeah, you go out there and do what you want. With that being said, like it's still like he's still performing at a high level over there. And I think you see when you see that, Cam Johnson is putting up, zeros on the points category for you. You're like, oh, we would have, loved to have a 15, 18 point game from Michael Porter Jr. in this thing to push us over the edge there. At the same time, though, is he going to help your defensive capabilities? Like, these are the things that I think, like, it's very much like revamp every season and say, we're good, we're good, we're good. Put a Band-Aid over something, and then we see once we reach this point of the season and deeper into the playoffs that this isn't sustainable. And especially what I'm looking for is the rotation. And I think that was a big issue that caused him to eventually fall to OKC, which we'll talk about in a little. Was that the fact that you didn't have the depth that OKC had, and OKC was able to attack you in so many different ways. Where it's like it's difficult to play Jokic the entire full time, because there's going to be ways where teams can spot him on the defensive end and find ways to use that to their advantage. And I think smart coaches and smart teams will find ways to do that. Denver doesn't have Jonas Valanciunas is a good backup to come in and provide board support. But I think when you take, obviously naturally, when you take a presence like Jokic off the court, you suffer so much offensively that it's difficult to say, like, oh, it's worth it if, like, they look at it and say, all right, the way that's how I look at it with Denver. I think this is how they look at it. It's like, if Jokic is on the court, yes, we're giving up defensive points, but our offense is so good that it probably doesn't matter. If we take him off the court, we don't have the offense, and potentially we may have slightly better defense, but teams are going to find ways to break through that eventually. And I think when you look at that, you say, why don't we want our all-world NBA, multiple-time MVP player out there and impacting the game, even if it means we're suffering on a defensive end a little.
Yeah, it's funny too because they just signed was it Tyus Jones? Who there? I saw that. I was like, okay. I mean, I don't think he's been shooting that well this season, and we know he can't really play defense. So I don't know if maybe they just want another guy in there who can initiate the offense better. Like when Jokic isn't out there, like maybe you are purely out there, like, hey man, like we're not asking you to shoot volume, right? Just give us like 3 threes a game, and then see if you can just be our primary guy with the ball in your hands when Jokic isn't out there. Maybe they're just trying to find a solution for that because, like you said, man, when Jokic isn't out there, it's rough, and when he is out there, the teams are straight up attacking him because they're not respecting much anyone else out there. Jamal Murray is playing fine, but besides that, it's like, what are we? I'm not like pressing any panic button with Denver, but because like I think once they do get healthier, it'll be better. But there's definitely some stuff they need to figure out as usual before they get to the playoffs. But then we always say this with Denver, and then they get to the playoffs and they're going 7 games with OKC in like one
Yeah.
this playoff series. And you're like, okay, like yeah, Denver's fine because once you get in that playoff series with Jokic, like 7 games in a row, it's just like he is one of the hardest players to stop in those kind of like series. So we'll
I
see.
still
It'll be
think
highly
even then,
entertaining.
like, it's difficult to look at this team and say that we think that this is a team that can compete with OK. And I've had this mentality, and yes, I know, like, no matter how much I can sit here and say this, you still have Jokic, and he's going to push games, at least to 6. I think is the bare minimum. But I think when you look at the rotation that they're playing right now, and looking at like who's playing more than like 6 minutes a game, I'll cut it at 10 even. Jonas Valanciunas is playing 10 minutes for them. That's above that. That's an 8-man rotation. So it's Cam Johnson, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Braun, Strother, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Bruce Brown. And it's like, I don't know if that 8-man rotation is enough to really get you over the hump and then yeah, still have Aaron Gordon. Hopefully when playoff time comes, but when you go up against a team like OKC that can go 12 deep, it's difficult to sit there and say like that roster is good enough when they can come in and attack you with so many different ways. And Jokic has to play 40 minutes a night, and you suffer defensively. So it's going to be interesting to see how, once again, how they attack the playoffs, because they still find ways to excel, and they're going to do it because they have Jokic on their team and they have Jamal Murray. But it once again just becomes a question of how much longer can you just revamp this and hope for the best.
Yeah, like I said, no panic button, but if you were to look at them compared to some of the other West teams, like I do think like I mean, dude, I mean the West is always going to be crazy, but like Denver OKC, Denver Spurs, Denver Timberwolves, like insane matchups. Like, but like in my matchups where I'm like Denver, like these are all games that like series that could go like 6 or 7, sorry, games. So it's like I don't know. I feel like the one I'm most confident in them in like the top of the Western Conference, it would be like the Rockets. Like I feel like they would actually not struggle as much against them, even though their defense is crazy. I just don't know if their offense would be good enough to do anything. Plus, against like Jokic, like yes, you can like send a lot, you can be aggressive with him, but he's still going to beat Jokic. Like a bad night for Jokic is like, oh, he was 1 assist off from a triple double. Okay, like you know what I'm saying. So I don't know. I feel like Houston would struggle the most against them for some reason, just off of like pure thought right now. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not too worried, but compared to some of the other top teams, like I would be a little worried about them in like a 7 game series.
Yeah, it's just once again going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out. But I'll use this time to transition to another Denver game that we saw happen this past week that I wanted to watch, and that was Denver versus OKC.
Yeah, I was like,
Talked
hey,
about them
okay.
enough. I had to get it out the way.
I'm glad we had this much overlap because now it's like I'm out of games. So like we're on like
This is
yeah,
my last one, so it's perfect.
this might be the most
Um,
overlap we've had in a matchup show.
yeah. So this was a Shea return, um, and it was also a rematch of Denver and OKC from the playoffs last year. And I think the the main talking point that came out of this game was Jalen Williams balling up Jokic, while Jokic is making a crazy face back at him.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
because we
yeah.
do. I was gonna bring this up in the shoot around, but since we're here, what's up with Lou Dort, brother? What's going on? I know you haven't really liked him this year. What are your thoughts on him tripping people and being
I want
Draymond Green?
I want Lou Dort off, off my team. I like, and I'll keep this like the Lou Dort portion short. Is that once again he was a valuable contributor from the bubble years on.
It's
No,
like
no,
a eulogy. It's like a eulogy. That's why it's
I
funny.
get
You're
it,
like,
but
oh, he
at
was
the
a
same
great
time,
guy. Like,
I consider him feel like, oh yes, he was very impactful to a very
yeah.
certain point, and he's good for his rainbow threes in the playoffs occasionally. With that being said, he is way too shaky offensively. And when there's stuff like this happens, and last year or 2 years ago, it was the John Morant stuff where it's like, oh, like, and I do believe it was like, not it wasn't intentional, but when you start to stack up these incidents in the tripping one, and then
I mean, think
like,
about him with Jeremiah Fears early this year. Although
yeah,
Fears gets in it with a lot of people, but like,
yes,
here's my thing with the whole like, if you're gonna be this guy, right? He keeps acting like, oh, like I'm not dirty. I don't do
yeah,
stuff like that. It's like we got you in 4K, brother. Like we can't. Like we have multiple camera angles in the NBA of you kicking your foot out to trip people. Like this isn't like the first time either. And you want to act big against guards like Jeremiah Fears, like the rookie, right? You want to get all big with him. But then the moment Jokic is like, then all your teammates got to get involved, and it was kind of funny watching like McCain in the middle of all that, be
yeah.
like, what do
I
I do?
saw I
You're
saw the
just like,
meme where it was like because he's got his nails painted, they were like he didn't want to mess him up, so he's just
yeah.
like he's like behind them.
I
Um,
literally though when I saw that pop, I was like, stay away from him. I was like, stay away from him. Like, don't go near him.
but like from a basketball standpoint, Lou Dort is way too inconsistent to sit here and say, well, he's still a great defender. And I think so many times like it was sustainable for the past 2 seasons to say, well, he's a great defender that can take out a number one option. But now I think with the way the rotations have shaked out and all the injuries, we've seen that Case and Wallace can take that load of being the number one guy to go out there and defend someone else's number one option. And I think, and I've said this for a while, is that OKC does a good job of setting up players to be next in line essentially. And at first it was like, oh, Case and Wallace is good. He's got a lot of young potential to step in as that on ball like hard to get by defender. And I was like, he just needs another season to develop. We've seen that he's taken that leap to be that number one guy defensively this season, which is why I can sit here and comfortably say like, all right, like respectfully, Lou Dort, get out of here. And you can. I think you'd be much better off putting someone else in the rotation or in the starting
Caruso.
lineup. Caruso it would be a perfect option to come in and bring his vet experience. I don't know, like, but either way, I think if 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 it's Caruso, you're still using that position as somebody, whether it's defensively or Isaiah Joe, Jerry McKean, to shuffle them in and get more minutes and be that that other scoring option, so we aren't just seeing Ludort stand in the corner and check up threes. Like you put instantly one of those shooters, Isaiah Joe or Jerry McKean, and then have the other one come off the bench, and I think this team gets better instantly. And yes, like you can say, oh, defensively, you may not get that, especially I know like Isaiah Joe has defensive concerns. With that being said, I still think OKC as a whole defensive team, like Shea can still guard really, like, he's still one of the best defenders. You still have Chet, Isaiah Hartenstein, if that's a rotation you run with. I still think OKC doesn't suffer much by having Ludort not on this team. And I think this is a decision, and I think Sam Presti's really good at making these decisions and not like, saying, well, he's done a lot for the team, like kind of how I am, and saying, all right, we appreciate it. We'll ship you off, and knowing him, we'll probably get a second round pick for him somehow.
He's a future Laker.
Yeah, I could see that.
He would actually kind of fit well with them. But
They need defense. They need defense.
yeah, they need defense and more high arcing jumpers. But yeah, I think you could easily afford to like not play him. It's not like he's this essential cog piece in your like fabric of your team anymore, right? Like you could replace him with a Caruso or these other shooters that could come in there and affect the game like in different ways, but still in very positive ways. Whereas Dort is like you said, his calling card is not really working anymore. So it's kind of like you kind of need to take away his minutes at this point.
You can't be a 3-and-D guy who doesn't shoot the three well. It becomes like you're one dimensional, and then in today's NBA, you can't be one dimensional. Yes, and I know like the only exception is probably the like if you're like really fucking good at that one thing where it negates everything else. Like if you're a straight like, hey, Bones Highland come off the bench and score 20 for us, like that's great. Jordan Clarkson come off the bench and score. We're not worried about you defensively because we're gonna make up for it. Lou Dort's defense at this point is not sustainable enough to say, okay, well his offense and occasional 3-point, barrage is good enough.
Like one good shooting game a month is not worth it.
Yeah. But okay, focusing on this game, Jokic getting balled up aside.
Yeah, I forgot we actually have a game to talk about, right?
Yeah, Shea came back. He scored 36. I think and especially it was what we would expect from a typical Shea game. I think that was exactly what I was excited for, to come back and see him play consistently. And I know like I feel like I'm glazing. But 36 points, 9 assists, 12 for 29 isn't the worst. But it's at the same time, it's like going in. I think this was a question I had, like, were they going to put him on a minute restriction, and to say like see him fully come back, and it was like, all right, like now go out there and play 34 minutes against one of the best teams in the Western Conference was good to see. But at the same time, no matter what happens, I think this is an OKC team that find ways to win games. And I know like yes, that is kind of like interesting to say considering the past month of play for them. But when they're healthy, or at least relatively healthy, because they're still trying to figure out what health is now, they are playing well. They are in a good rhythm, and I think this is something that we're seeing from this team is working Jerry McCain and seeing what it looks like, and starting to figure out what rotations look like. We talked about Lou Dort, but like you still had Caruso coming off the bench playing the same amount of minutes. You still have Jalen Williams coming off the bench and providing a great output. And I think Mark Daigneault as a coach has done a great job of just managing everything, all the chaoses, all the ups and downs of the season, and just keeping this team level to be able to beat the top teams in the Western Conference, minus San Antonio, and being able to just keep things level. And I think that's the important thing moving forward in closing regular season is just consistency with OKC.
Yeah, I mean that's always the key with like with these like championship caliber teams, man. Is just being consistent and being healthy, and like you'll hear every team talk about that. Like the biggest thing, and this is even just being a team, like just being a good player, right? It's all about consistency. Like any player in the NBA can score 20, but it's like who can do it consistently? Like, not to glaze your guy, but like SGA has that streak, right? That's why he's considered one of the best players in the league right now. Part of why, It's because you can do that stuff night in and night out. So to have an entire team that is fully bought in, that can play a certain style, a certain like energy level night in and night out, you have to give a lot of credit to Mark Dagnall for being able to have his team ready to go like that, like every single game. And you're right, it doesn't matter who's in there, whether it be like Isaiah Joe and Jared McCain starting for you, or when you have your full starting lineup out there, there's no real drop off because you're still putting in that effort. Like if you look at the numbers, yeah, there might be a drop off in the defense since some of these injuries have happened, but the offense has still been just as good, if not just better in other ways. So there's a constant, kind of like math equation to do as a coach there, where it's like, who do I put here to get these certain things to happen? It's all like part of a recipe. And Mark Daniels is one of the best cooks out there when it comes to that. So, oh my God. But yeah, he's one of the best out there at doing that. All right.
I appreciate all the glaze.
Yeah, I didn't. That wasn't where my intention, but it just kind of ended up like. But look, when you're that good of a team, it's easy to like praise you for doing these things. But it's just to be that consistently good about it. And you've even gotten some more traction against the Spurs, who like they lose a game or two, and now you're 3.5 games ahead of them instead of like 1.5 or two. So these games do still very much matter going in towards the playoffs if you want to keep that one seed. So you're going to have to keep relying on these like healthier depth pieces to carry you to finish this one seed. Like these players should be praised. Like this isn't an easy thing that OKC is doing. Like we like to talk about how good this team is and like top down, but like this is a very impressive thing to do with the injuries that they've had to maintain the one seed with you basically like your bench. That's really good in the Western Conference. All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
Not for the past
Review
few,
wise.
yeah, or review wise. No, we'll save it for some rest.
Yeah.
Another
No,
time.
trust me. I gotta get. Yeah. Shoot around is gonna be a good one. All right. Let's preview some games that we're gonna be looking at. I'll start because I actually have two that are happening today. One that's I think it's still happening right now, and then one that's gonna be happening soon. So we have Trae Young making his debut today. He just did like a couple hours ago. He got his first points and all of them. I can't wait to watch that game. But uh, I really want to watch that. Literally, I'm just watching that game for Trae Young's debut. That's all I'm trying to see. And I've been watching the Wizards a lot lately too, and I'm gonna be talking about them a little bit later in shoot around. But like for me, like literally, there's no like, oh, I want to watch this match. I'm sure there are some matchups I'm gonna want to watch in it, but the main thing for me is like, how does Trae Young look in this offense and defense? And how does he like incorporate himself into this young team? Like, is he immediately just going to be like the guy going in there, like handling everything? Is he going to give a little bit of leeway to some of the other guys who've been doing well, like recently on the team? Like, so I'm curious to see. It was funny to see him get ejected though earlier this week as well for like,
Before he plays his first minutes with the team.
yeah. And that was a fun game I watched too. Actually, that was yeah, that was a good one. But it was against the Rockets. Yeah, he got ejected. He wasn't even playing, but yeah, that one purely is just me be like curiosity, like okay, what is Trae Young going to look like on this team? And then the other one tonight is Detroit and San Antonio, a little bit of rematch. It's happening soon here now. Yeah, so that's one I want to watch. Like the last time they played each other is one of the best games I've seen all season. It was just a really physical and like fun match. So I just want to watch that again to see if there's any changes these teams make. Are the Spurs going to still be able to maintain that physicality, or are the Pistons going to be able to jump on them this time? So really want to see that one. But those are the first two I got because those are happening today. What else you
It,
got?
it is 71-55 San Antonio at halftime.
You think they're doing well then? I think they're
Not
doing well.
ideal. Things could always change, but Wimby has 24 at half, and De'Aaron Fox has 22 at half. I just I criticized De'Aaron Fox about a half an hour ago. He must have been watching this live somehow. Uh, all to say, since we were on the topic of San Antonio, I'll follow up with another San Antonio matchup. It doesn't happen until Sunday, but it's Houston versus San Antonio. And I think you mentioned it earlier, but I want to see, yes, like Houston defensively, I think they're solid, and I think that's going to be really interesting to see how that continues to develop. I also really want to see how their offense continues to expand, and and I keep thinking about the potential alleged KD leaks, and I think about the Jabari Smith, and Albert Sengun parts, and it's like, oh, like this is supposed to be your future, and to some degree, like even if that is Kevin Durant or not, like this is supposed to be Houston's future, and I think we have to understand that Kevin Durant isn't going to be there forever, and I want to see offensively, who's able to take the next step? Is it a Jabari Smith? Or is I just Alperen Sengun just fully evolve into being Nikola Jokic or whatever that is? Like I want to see how Houston is able to do that. Or is Reed Shepard able to continue to take leaps and bounds? And I think he's been a lot better than the other sophomore guard from Kentucky. He shall not be named at this point. But I still just I believe in Houston, and actually they're not going anywhere. But I think out of any of the top teams in the Western Conference, I think I have the most questions about them because I look at them and I think like, is it sustainable? Like when it comes to playoff atmosphere, and every team is good defensively, and you're there's hard nosed basketball being played. Who's able to come in and make that difference for you in the playoffs? And yes, like Kevin Durant is going to be there, but how much when teams all know Kevin Durant is one of the greatest scorers of all time, and they're able to focus on him, how does the team around him play off of that and work to kind of help him take the load off?
Yeah, because a lot of it is like Kevin Durant, like here's the ball, please go get us a bucket.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Rockets, because they don't get a lot of shots up, especially at volume. Like they're relying on just being like efficient, and Kevin Durant can do that for you. Şengün will do a lot for you down low, but I mean this matchup against the Spurs, it is like all right, Wemby, like see games like this make me curious because like who do you put on Kevin Durant? And it because in my mind it should be Wemby, but then who do you put on Şengün? And or does Wemby still roam? Right? Is he still not going to be manned up in this one? Because I
Yeah,
would
the
love.
height, the height of Houston, I think is going to be a big question mark, and it's not a question mark for them, but a question mark for how teams play against it.
Yeah, I'm just really curious to see who matches up with who defensively on this one. Like, cause I feel like the Spurs will stick to their philosophies and have Wemby roam, but like it's gonna be a tough game for him down low, and then having to close out with some KD shots as well. But then the physicality, like you said, with Houston, like they have all this size. Like when you got Thompson and Eason and all these guys like running down the court at you into the paint, like it's gonna be a long day for Wemby. But hey, man, that's where we see. We want to see if he's up for the challenge. Man, he's getting worked a lot lately, man. Not in like a bad way, but it's just like he's clearly like he's carrying this team some games. All right, next one. I have on. I think this was Friday. No, sorry, Saturday. I don't know why this one stuck out to me. I just wanted to watch like I don't know if it's bad or not, but I had the Clippers in Memphis.
I knew when you said that. I don't know if it's gonna be bad. It was going to be bad.
It's not. It's more of just like a checkup, right? Like I've only watched
That's fair.
one of game of each team since they like the trade deadline, and I want to see more of like, okay, how are these new pieces doing? Like Matherin, he's been having some good games for them. Um, I want to see. I'm always down to see some like Cedric Coward or some of the other young guys of Memphis as well. So it's more of like a check in for that. Seeing these two teams that are clearly preparing for the future, like what are the who's playing well enough that they're going to be considered like pieces for them going forward in the future. Like that's kind of what I'm looking at with a game like this. But I had that one just real quick, and then obviously like an obvious one for Sunday is Boston and Cleveland, two of the better teams in the East. Like I think you could argue like two of the top three teams in the East going against each other in a potential future matchup here for the Eastern Conference Finals, which I can't believe we're saying with Boston still after everything they've been through. Also, by the way, I kind of skipped it. Sorry, this was when I was thinking of Friday when I skipped over it. Apparently, that is when Jason Tatum is making his debut against
Against
Dallas
Dallas. Yep.
on ESPN. Wow, surprise! Yeah, cool. You make your debut on national television, but typical Boston thing. Um, yeah, so I just like how many minutes does it get? I'm guessing it'll be around 20 or 15. Like I don't know what the deal like this is something we don't normally see. Like normally when we have people's had this injury, like we saw it last year. Like Tyrese Halliburton is there's been no talks of him coming back to play this year. Tatum has straight up just been like working his way back since the summer to the point where we've been like stunned at the progress he's made, where it's like he's been playing fives in the past few weeks and like ramping up his play and practice and the physicality that he can go through. And you're like it was funny where it was like beginning of the season, you're like everyone for the most part was just like, yeah, he shouldn't play because the Boston, this is a year for them to punt, this is a year for them to kind of just develop and blah blah blah. But like knowing Missoula and how crazy him and I mean their front offices in general, really, with Brad Stevens even, it's like like they were gonna push for him to play if they were in a position where it made sense, and they are 100% in a position where it makes sense. Where it's like Boston has seen like their offense has been one of the best. Like it's been a top three offense basically all year, and their defense is good as well. So, and they're in a position now where they're one of the top teams in the East, and we're going to be going into the playoffs talking about them as like a top three seed. And I just like I can't believe we're here where it's like no Tatum coming back. Actually, like this makes sense. Like this actually, like I can't believe we're here, but it's like Boston has put themselves in a position where it's like if Tatum comes back and he even looks like 80% of himself, this is a team that can contend.
It's tough because I think to some degree, I think normally the question, and this is if your coach isn't Joe Mazzulla, I think normally the question is how does he fit into this, and how do you fit Jason Tatum into this without messing the flow that you have right now. With that being said, the key factor is Joe Mazzulla, and the fact that you have him, I think they're going to be okay, and he's going to find ways to implement him in, to not rush him in, especially when you have Jaylen Brown playing at an MVP level. There is no concern to say, oh, we need Jason Tatum to come back and play 30 a night for us, and be the Jason Tatum that we've seen. You can once again, like you said, you could have an 80, hell, even a 70%. Jason Tatum, and you'll still be good, and especially come playoff time to have someone to take the load off. Like this is the perfect time to filter Jason Tatum back in and get him in. When we were talking about this last week, or maybe it was the week before, about like, oh, was it possible to bring Jason Tatum back? And my one thing was like, if he comes back in the next couple weeks, it's like the perfect timing. Any longer than that, I don't know. It'd be difficult to try to ramp him up to playoff atmosphere and playoff basketball and say, well, go out there and contribute, for us. But this is the perfect time for this to happen, in the perfect scenario where it's like there is no pressure to try to compete and fight for a play-in seed in the Eastern Conference. You're right where you need to be, and there's not a lot of pressure, which I think is the perfect environment for Jason Tatum to try to come back in this. With that being said, though, there was like one crazy Joe Mazzulla quote, which I know that's
So it was
there's
a
there's
regular press
yes,
conference.
there's one that stood out to me
Yeah.
this past week, and it was today, where apparently there was a theory going around that Jason Tatum was returning on March 14th. Jason Tatum's hometown area code is 314, and he signed a contract extension worth 314 million. And it was this whole like conspiracy theorist. So they asked Joe Mazzulla about this, and his response was, "I may not even be alive that day. Dot dot dot. I go to bed questionable. I wake up probable." Which I was like, what the? I I had to read it back so many times to like kind of question like what is wrong with this man. And I was like, you know what? Like, who am I to tell him he's insane? I think he already knows it.
I really hope there's someone in Boston media who is keeping track of all of the best like Joe Mazzulla quotes. And I want like a calendar of just Joe Mazzulla quotes. Like every day, I rip away a piece of paper and I read. I go to bed questionable and I wake up probable. I'm like, if I start my day reading quotes like that, I'll be like, you know what?
You
Hell
don't take
yeah,
you don't take life for granted after something like that.
dude. I it's like it sounds cheesy and bad, but like this, it's an aspect of sport where it's like when you have a coach like this who can just be psychotic but channel that psychosis into being like motivation and just coaching in general, right? Like
Danny Campbell.
yeah, it's like forget
Say,
the X's and
I'm
O
gonna
stuff.
bite your knee. We're gonna bite a kneecap
Yeah,
off. Like,
we're gonna take them to the shallow
that was his
waters and
first press
drown
conference, and we were
them.
like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
But it works. It's great. Like when you're around someone like this, like a leader, and they're talking like this, and like everyone is buying in. When someone says something like that, like you will see everyone in the room just going like, "Hell yeah, hell yeah!" It's just like it's. I love it, man. I hate Boston, but I love Joe Mazzulla. It sucks. I think it sucks. It's
It's a
like
weird place to be. All right, I'll just follow off of that. We mentioned Boston and Dallas, and I'm not going to say I sit here and I want to tune into a Dallas game, but Cleveland especially. I also want to see, ironically, their matchup against Philly, which is Monday. Just to kind of like, once again, you talk about like measuring sticks. I think I want to see how Philly stacks against a team like Cleveland that has this immense depth and has so many different ways to attack a team. I think that'll really be a. And I know like they already kind of had a measuring stick game against New York a couple of times in the past couple of weeks, but I think another one to see like, all right, where are you at? Like, how good can you compete with a team like Cleveland? So that's just another
The
little one.
guard matchup in this one will be good. Like Maxey and Edgecombe dealing with like Ellis Schroeder. Like
Yeah.
I'm curious for when those lineups match up against each other. All right. Do you have anything else for that one, or are we going next?
Mm, one more final matchup, and
Okay.
that was Minnesota versus the Lakers on Tuesday. It's Anthony Edwards versus Luka Doncic. Like I really want to
Gotta
see
watch
that.
it. Yeah.
And I'll do you have any more games to talk about?
I thought I had one. I think. Well, okay. So I was going to mention a shooter. There's teams I want to watch, but not specific matchups. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. So we'll get to that in the shoot around.
Okay, because I'm ready to transition right now because I got something to to start with this with.
What you got?
Speaking of the Lakers, what is wrong with DeAndre Ayton?
Is this
This
the Clint
past week,
Capella thing? I
this is the
think we
Clint
did
Capella
forget to
thing.
talk about it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, okay. So this past, or yeah, in the past week, um, DeAndre Ayton has been playing, I guess, slightly better than what he typically has, which I know was felt like previously kind of low bar. He's slightly better. I didn't say he's going out there and tearing the world down. I think we're still looking at this, and I think if you're anybody with reason, you're looking at this and saying it needs to be better, especially considering what they've tried to get for him and everything.
Basically, his entire career.
It is insane for him to come out and say, and I'm trying to pull up the exact quote here. Um, after doing media, Aiden walked to the showers and shouted, "They're trying to make me Clint Capella," which when I first read that, I was like, "What the fuck?" Well, like
What did
there's
Clint
that like
Capella do?
there's that 50 Cent meme where he's like, "What you saying fuck me for?" Like
Yeah.
that's how I looked at this with Clint Capella because I was like, one, like he had nothing to do with this. Two, Clint Capella arguably has had a better career than DeAndre Ayton. I think right
No, no,
now,
he has had a better career.
oh, and especially considering the expectations, right? DeAndre Ayton is a former like he was the guy coming out of college where it's like,
Number
oh,
one
he's
overall pick.
gonna
I saw him play in college, and there was hype around him of like,
yes.
yeah, this is going to be like a generational kind of like
He's
big
he's
man that
gonna
comes
come in
through.
and change a franchise. He's gonna come in and be the guy that whatever team is going to draft him is going to get. Like you're going to get a guy who can train drastically change your foundation. A number one overall pick in 2018. He comes into the league and it's like, oh, he's like give him time to develop, give him time to develop. Still not good, still not good, and you're like, all right, like it'd be too much to say he's a bust because like there's worse players, but I think considering what was supposed to be his ceiling, what was supposed to be the expectations around him, it was lackluster at best, and it was always like, oh, like you know what you're getting, but at the same time, you're always gonna want more from him. Like you're always going to say, there's another step you can go, there's another level we think you can get to, and then you look at Clint Capella, right? And I look at Clint Capella's career, and I say yes, he hasn't been I say like DeAndre Ayton has been offensively a lot better than him. At the same time, Clint Capella is a much better fit for hell any type of team because he's willing to adapt and willing to fully buy into their philosophy of not being a like trying to be a number one option or trying to be a ball dominant even heavy guy. Like it's very much like what you're getting with Clint Capella, what you're going to get with him, and he comes in and he plays that role to the best of his ability. He didn't have the high expectations of being a number one overall pick, and yet he still had a better ceiling and exists and has pushed his NBA career a lot farther than DeAndre Ayton. So for him to be like, well, they're trying to make me Clint Capella like that, like it felt like a diss to be like, oh well, like I'm above him. When it's like, bro, you're really not. Like Clint Capella has arguably once again had a better career than you, starting from less and working his way up. And you were able to get the privilege of being a number one overall pick, getting the privilege of handing the keys to the kingdom and Phoenix, and it didn't matter. You didn't do anything. You look at this and it's like it's just kind of crazy for someone to say this when he really hasn't been what I think like even half of what his potential fully could have been.
100% agree. And it's crazy to say that, like, oh, they're trying to make me Clint Capella. Yeah, probably because they would love to have Clint Capella on the team over you. Because you know what Clint Capella is? He's an unselfish big man who, like you said, he'll adapt to the team he goes to. He'll buy in and he'll rim run and he'll defend. like, and you're playing with, I forget who it was. I think was it Clint Capella who responded and said like you got those two like generational playmakers or something like along the lines of that. Like just go out there and hoop. Like it's so true. Luka Doncic made Dwight Powell look like a good center. Okay, I don't understand how you can struggle to have a good like season when you're playing with both Luka and LeBron, and then you got Austin Reeves out there who can like hoop it up as well from the perimeter and do what he does as a scorer. You should be able to play off of these guys so well as a big man. Like they would love for you to be Clint Capella because then they would get more energy from you. They would get more blocks. They would get more rebounds. There would be more energy just getting the ball in general and being a part of the team, setting the screens and being where you need to be, and not like slouching and pouting on the court like a fucking loser. Like I don't know how else to explain it, man. Like this is who he is. This is why he got released by the Blazers. This is why the Suns were willing to trade him to the Blazers, right? Like this is why all this happens to DeAndre Ayton because it's always his ego that gets in the way. Like he'll get to a new place, he'll talk about how he's ready to contribute and be like a like a good player for his new franchise that he wants to be like, and then sure enough a few months later it's always this. It's like he thinks he's some generational prospect still who deserves all the touches in the world. You're fourth on this team at best when it comes to getting touches, and you're about to be like seventh because they're probably going to end up starting Jackson Hayes over you, which at this point they should. Which me saying that, like, dude, that's bad. Like, we know I'm not the biggest fan of Jackson Hayes, so it's like the fact that I'm saying, like, yeah, he probably should start over you. It's like, it's nuts, man. Like the ego, like NBA players, like athletes, professional athletes, you're supposed to have an ego. That's fine, but you've also got to have some self awareness, man. Like the best players in the world have self. Like think about Anthony Edwards, the guy we talk about all the time, who goes into each offseason looking for coaching, saying like, okay, what can I get better at, and then he works to get better at that thing every offseason. That's what makes the best players the best. DeAndre Ayton basically came into the league and said, I am one of the best already, and I don't need to work on anything. And he's just progressively gotten worse. It feels like especially over the past few years. I mean, we're talking about a guy who didn't show up to an NBA game because there was snow in his driveway. Okay, so like none of this should be surprising.
So Udonis Haslam was one of the many people to come out and speak about this, and he said, "I played with the big three. The other 12 of us did not have the role we wanted. The only three people that had the role they wanted, or had the role that they wanted, was them. Everybody
And
else
I don't
was
even know if Chris Bosh had the role he wanted on that team.
everybody else had to fill in a gap and play a role to get the win. And you are no different, DeAndre. Play your damn role and get your ring or not." And I think like there is no better way to say that. Like, and I think you mentioned it. It's like, oh, like they're trying to make me Clint Capella. Like, yes, like what else would they like? You're catching on. Like, what else would they want from you? Like, and I think at some point, and once again, it's hard to sit there and put your mind in the perspective of being an NBA player. But when you think about this and you think about what the Lakers' needs are, and if we can sit here and say, oh, the Lakers are clearly struggling in this issue, and the Lakers clearly brought you in with the intention of solving that issue, and you have come in and not solved that issue, it is very clear to say, like, yeah, they would want somebody who would solve that issue, and they're trying to mold you to be the guy who can once again solve their issue. And so it's just insane for him to try and take a shot at Clint Capella.
Yeah, I just it's such a disrespectful. It was so disrespectful to Clint Capella for like so many reasons. Where it's like good on Clint Capella for like basically laughing at him and getting back at him. Who, by the way, Clint Capella, like he's not like he's getting a lot of minutes with Houston right now, but like he is playing well for them. He's playing his role, and like I don't know to have this type of ego where you can't figure out that you're actually in a better spot than you've maybe ever been since you were on the Suns on that finals run. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, just have some more self awareness. But like I said, shouldn't be that surprised. All right. Anything else on Aiton? All right. All right. Well, my next thing was I want to talk about a player as well, Jonathan Kuminga, who since he's been finally playing for the Hawks has been hooping, like legitimately, like looked really good, and it's brought up the conversations now with the Warriors, where it's like Steve Kerr and the Warriors, like, what the hell were y'all doing? Like, how is this man not getting more playing time? Like, how could you not figure out how to get him on the court when he's clearly an effective like basketball player? Like he's going out there for it almost looks like he's kind of playing like the Jalen Johnson role, like off the bench for the Hawks, where he comes in and he's just like that wing that could come in and get a bucket for you. He's been living at the free throw line, it feels like some games. and then he's also getting the rebounds and getting the assists. I mean, look at like it's only been a few games, but like 27, 7 and 4, 17, 9 and 3, 27 and 3, and it's like if that's what you're getting from your wing who's coming off the bench, like that's fantastic. Like this guy is clearly proving himself to be an effective scorer and a good, decent, like I would say at least a good defender. And he's buying into his role, it looks like, with the Hawks, and he's thriving when he's out there. So I just, to me, the question is just like, why couldn't the Warriors figure this out with him? Like, I really don't understand what went wrong here, where they are almost trying to like it was like defamatory stuff they were saying about him while he was there, and since he's left, talk about like, oh, like, to demand a trade, there has to be demand and stupid shit like that from your GM, and then talking about like, oh, like it was always like weird stories going about like him taking food home that they wasn't even being used in the locker room. It was like, what the? Why are y'all so in on this guy? Like trying to like make him like all these bad things about it. It was just so weird. And then so it's like a good feel good story where it's like, okay, he's with Atlanta now and he's found a role there and he's like thriving a bit and hopefully making himself some money. But then then everyone starts to question the Warriors of like, why couldn't y'all make this work when clearly you need this is the type of player the Warriors need. Like this is exactly what they need right now. They're relying on guys like Pods to give them buckets, and it's like if you needed buckets, there was a guy there the entire time. And for some reason, because of personalities, egos, whatever it is, it didn't work out. It got really bad, and now he's on another team playing the way he should have been playing for your team.
I think it's a combination of both, but I think it starts with the Warriors, and I think like all of Kuminga's, and not to be like, well, like the little kid defensive, they started it first, but I do think like when you look at Golden State and how they've handled the situation, it is a situation where it's like they mistreated it, which caused Kuminga to to be petty almost, and then handle it in response, and I think part of that, like, and this is something that kind of piqued my interest about this is Steve Kerr was like speaking about like the player development stuff, I'm trying to like this because it's a long quote. I'm trying to summarize it as best as possible. But basically, I think the key part to focus on, and this is what he says, is this. He says, I think part of the frustration of our fans probably stems from the fact that we have the 3 lottery picks coming in at a time where we were winning a championship. And it's just hard to play 19-year-olds on championship teams. The development that comes is going to be different than it would come on a team that's in a lottery, where you put a guy there for 35 minutes and let him make mistakes. I think that's probably where some of the frustration comes. But you see how it can work too. You see Moses Moody, you see his development over time. You see Santos, I think Podziemski is really coming into his own and playing well, but it takes time. I remember when I got to Chicago, we had a couple of drafts, and I was in my 10th year. And I asked Phil Jackson what he thought about the guys we drafted, and he said, well, it won't matter for a few years. And I said, how come? And he said, grown-ups win championships. And it's true. It's true. It's really hard to come in as a young player and be expected to have the wealth of knowledge and skill and feel that you would have to be a championship NBA player. And he goes on to say some more. And this is all from an interview that he did with a Bay Area radio station. Look, I understand it, right? I understand the mentality of yes, like, and we just talked about DeAndre Ayton and him coming in and being like, oh well, I deserve to. I am the franchise. No franchise is going to have to. No, I'm not bending the knee to the franchise. The franchises are bending the knee to me to fit my needs and suit me as a player. With that being said, as far as we're concerned, and nothing has come out that has ever said that Jonathan Kuminga came out and was expected to be this number one option guy or even the number two to Steph or anything like that. It was always just wanting to get his role into the team and finding a fit for him. And I think Steve Kerr's mentality of maturity and giving players time to develop isn't realistic in a system and with a player like Jonathan Kuminga, because that it isn't applicable to everybody. You can't sit here and say, well, we'll give him a couple years and to develop, when you start to see that you're putting, other players that, like Moses Moody, he mentioned it. You're seeing him, get minutes over him. And you're saying, well, like if he's getting minutes, why can't you see Kuminga gets like even something and see what you're working with? And yes, at the same time, like the defense to that could always be, well, we don't know what Steve Kerr's seeing in practice, and we don't know what's happening on behind the scenes. With that being said, I think there's a lot that can be said for playing in real time and playing in an actual atmosphere and playing real live game situations to figure things out. You can sit here and say yes, practice is important, and like unless you're Allen Iverson, of course, like there's ways to go into that, and it's a good good view for the coaches to analyze things. With that being said, there's nothing like real game experience and seeing a player fully function out there, and I think that's where I fault Steve Kerr more for not giving Kuminga the not just the minutes, because it's one thing to say, oh, go out there and have your minutes, but another thing is to at least try to help fit the situation and to try to build things around him to some degree where you're working to best suit the player as well. Because part of coaching isn't just like saying yes, like I'm building a competent team and everyone's going to work together, but it's also understanding a player's weaknesses, understanding a player's strengths, and working to best suit them as well. Like and yes, that goes for Stephen Curry, but that also goes for someone that you drafted like Kuminga and you're trying to develop into a competent player. Is how can we structure around him? What are his weaknesses? What are his strengths? And we saw that when he's able to get these moments and you're able to play to his strengths, like he's able to play well. Like you think about how he was playing last year around this time, actually, like going into the playoffs, he was hooping. So it's difficult to
He
see.
nearly dropped 50.
Exactly. It is difficult to see the way this all played out when the potential was clearly there.
And like, what does he talk about with development? Because how much of a window do you think you have with Steph Curry? And if you're talking about like needing playoff experience and being that good, cool. What has Al Horford done for you exactly since he's gotten there? Like, I'm sorry, is he not one of the most experienced guys on your team? Has he been like a fucking revelation for your team that's like carrying you to victories? I don't understand what you're talking about, man. You're relying on guys like Pods, Will Richard, a rookie, Moses Moody, who is like fine, but then like I just Guy Santos, like this is the future of your team. Like, what is your team after Steph Curry leaves? Draymond looks awful this year, like straight up just bad. He can't do anything for you on offense, especially. And then so it's like I don't understand how this roster even makes sense going forward and why you would give up a player of like Kuminga who clearly has showed potential in the past. It's just, and it's Steve Kerr. Like, look, man, no, like nothing against your career as a player and as a coach. You're clearly going to be going into the Hall of Fame for like at least one of those, right? Like, I just, what are we talking about with developing players and like, oh, this is a grown men win championships? Okay, do we not just see OKC with like a shit ton of young players win the championship? Like, I'm confused. Like, I just, and then the guy you traded for in Chris Porzingis, he barely even fucking plays. So like you're bringing all these grown men in, I guess, to play for your team, but then they don't even play, and when they are out there, they're not as good as they need to be to help Steph Curry, who's also been injured, by the way, another grown man who's old, who's barely even been playing lately. Like, I don't understand that. Like, you got a bunch of grown men with bad knees. Congratulations, you're the A seed. You're barely above 500 in the Western Conference. You're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. So what are we even talking about? At this point, you're talking about maximizing the window of Steph Curry going into the next season already, and he's going to be like what 38 years old. And then what is your team after this? Like Steve, my thing with Steve Kerr is I don't think he's going to be here after the Steph Curry era. So in his mind, it's probably like, okay, here's the finish line. Does this player? But even then, that wouldn't make sense because you would still need a guy like this more now than you would. None of it makes sense to me. None of it. Anytime they talk about like what happened there and how they're building their team and what their plans are for the future, it just all looks bad. And it's part of their own doing, man. Like they've kind of just imploded in a way. And it's maybe it started with them, punching Jordan Poole and sending him off to another team when he was a big reason why they even won. Like you get rid of Wiggins, you bring in Jimmy Butler, he gets hurt. Obviously that sucks. But like you've gotten rid of a lot of depth that you've had in the past and like developing players that were at least younger or youngish that you could have had for years going forward. You got rid of them and you've replaced them with lesser younger talent to help support your top end older talent, but your top end older talent is barely out there, and the young talent that you have has not been developing the way you would have hoped. So where are you at now?
I do agree with you, and I think if there's like one kind of nexus point that all this comes from, I think it is the Draymond punch. I think that like genuinely changed the. I mean, you could probably even say before that with the Draymond and KD falling out. But I think like yes, that was like one small step backwards. They still were able to win a championship after that. I think that the moment Draymond threw that punch, I think that historically changed the direction of where the Warriors were headed for the next couple of years, and I think we haven't seen them at the level since then that they are capable of, and it's partially yes, like the self-inflicted wounds of a Draymond punch, but it's also a lot of just how the NBA has grown around them, how it's shaped, and how things have changed that, and they fail to adapt to it. And I think failing to adapt, like I think this whole situation to me screams like in high school where it's like, oh, freshmen are supposed to play on JV, seniors and junior, that's varsity, and you work your way up, and that's how you're supposed to do that. And I think that is so unrealistic at times when you have a freshman or a sophomore that can come in and play at a high level for you. And it's like, well, not yet. We have seniors that need to play over you, senior privilege. Like that's essentially what this whole situation comes down to. And that like that whole comment on the what was it exactly? The age wins.
Grown men when, yeah, or
Like
adults,
that
whatever.
that to me like it is, and especially once again when you look at OKC and you look at how San Antonio is looking right
Dude,
now. You look
Detroit.
at
It's
how
not like
Detroit is
Detroit's an
moving
old
right
team.
now. Like, all these teams are young teams that are full of energy and are willing to adapt to play to their coaches' standards, but also play around each other, suit each other, and push each other to be the best team possible. And I think the Warriors for far too long have relied on the same tactics that we've seen work well for so long. And yes, they've worked. Are they going to continue to work? And are they working now where they're sustainable to keep going? No. And that's where we start to see the issues of the constant, evolution of the Warriors collapse.
I was looking at the ages of the guys on their team. I didn't realize Gary Payton was 33 and that I was the same age as Porzingis. I mean, looking at the future of this team, like even Pat Spencer, who's been kind of like a fun addition for them this year, he's 29 years old. So it's not like you're looking at him as like, okay, this is a guy for us for like a long time. Like your youngest guys are Pods at 23, Richard at 23, and Moses Moody at 23, and then Guy Santos at 23. Okay, what? Draymond's 36, Steph is 37, Seth Curry 35. Forgot he was even still around. Like I said, Porzingis is 30, Payton 30. Like I just, then you have Al Horford who's 39 years old, who can like I just, it's a very confusing team. I don't understand what their plan was going into the season and what is going to be next. But I mean, even Jimmy Butler's 36 years old and coming off of now like a major injury. So yeah, this team's gonna have to do a lot of soul searching in the offseason. All right, what do you got next for shoot around?
Honestly, there was really just those two things I wanted to talk about.
Okay, I got a couple then. All right, and all right, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be unnecessarily high on the Wizards going into the next season. I'm it's gonna be bad. Like it's getting to the point where I'm not gonna sit here and say that they're gonna make like a Detroit Pistons leap that we saw like last season and all that, or like a couple seasons ago. But I think this will be a team that we'll be talking about similar to like maybe like the Hornets, where it's like right now like they're pushing to be like a top 8 seed within the Eastern Conference. I think we'll be talking about the Wizards in that way, where it's like they'll be hanging around like the 6th seed, like 6 to 8 seed, like next year. I every time I watch them, I'm like, okay, I like this young player, I like that young player. Like I watched him against the Rockets, right? And it was Koulibaly hit like I think it was at least 5 threes. He was just sniping from the corner. It was like that was one of the things he's really needed to work on throughout the years, the shooting. And if he can do stuff like that consistently, and he can be like the athlete that he is with the defensive capabilities, cool. There's a really good 3 and D guy for you right there. And then, or just like just a good player for you right there. Cool. That was Koulibaly. And then you've got Carrington, Bub Carrington, who I've been on high on since like he came into the league, even though that's been short time. Obviously, it's his second year. But dude, watching a young player like that just find a way to get to his spots in the midi and hit those jumpers like consistently and like search for them. Like these aren't just like desperation, like, oh, I need to get the shot up. Like he's going to his spots, whether from the three and especially in the midi. Like and he's hitting these like tough jumpers there, and like the energy that he brings. Like that's one thing too. Like this Wizards team, like there's a certain like vibe about them, like a certain way that they go about things, where it's like Carrington's out there with like an untucked jersey and like the baggier shorts, and they've all got like you got Trey Johnson out there, who's a lot of fun to watch. By the way, dude is just one of the purest shooters in the league already. It feels like he brings a lot to you offensively, especially. and like he's got his like hairstyle out there. It's like all these guys have like their personalities are showing through in their game and just like on the court. And it's fun to watch a young team develop like this, where it's like these guys are becoming more confident in themselves and in their game. And then, dude, Keyshawn George hit a shot in this game that like I think I rewinded it like four different times to watch because and Tari Eason had the same exact reaction I did in real time where it was a midi where to the right, Keyshawn is like working his way towards the baseline. He hits a sidestep dribble and goes up for like a fading midi, like close to the baseline. And Tari Eason's like following him, like he's right on him, and he jumps up to try and like swipe at the jump shot. Keyshawn George hangs in the air and like basically like hitches a shot and like while still like floating in the air, Tari Eason flies by expecting the shot. The shot doesn't go up because he delays it while still in the air, and then he gets the shot up pure, just completely pure, and goes in. I was like, did I just like I've never seen like a hitched midi like that. I mean, I was like, what the hell did I like rewind? Because Tari Eason, you see him, he lands kind of like near the like 1 foot out of like the court, and he's like looking back at Keyshawn George. And the look on his face was like, what the fuck did I just see? Like he was like, he was just like stunned. One that like he was able to contest it like that. The two, the contest didn't even matter because the guy was just like holding the ball. It was just, it was such a weird, wacky shot. But like the fact that like he's been playing the way he has all season, he's able to hit shots like that against really good defenders. You have everything like Alex Sarr has been really good. Like watching him develop this year has been fantastic. And then now you add Trae Young, who I'm gonna watch his game later on today, see how he's with the team. But you get him and then eventually Anthony Davis involved in this. I'm gonna be unnecessarily high with this team, and and it's like it's not even just like those main guys, like the big picks, like Sharif Cooper coming off the bench for them, like handling the ball and playing defense. Like they have a bunch of young guys in this team where you're like, okay, like I can see what the starting lineup could be, and the some of the depth pieces are like already there. Like I think this team, once you get like fully healthy with Trae Young and Anthony Davis, they could go like 8 or 9 deep and be a team that's like, look, I'm not gonna sit here and say they're gonna be a top 4 seed in the East next year, but they're gonna be a team where it's not gonna be an easy out anymore. And when they actually are trying to play like competitive basketball with a coach who I think is good, I'm gonna be like very positive on this team.
I was so worried that you'd go like so much further, and like this is going to be a top 16. They're going to avoid like they'll be just above the play in. But no, I agree with you, and I think especially when you use the example of like the Hornets, I was like, all right, like I think that's a like. Ironically, I think maybe even a little bit better than the Hornets. I think they because they have the established players of an Anthony Davis, they have a Trae Young who can come in and still, once again, you're not putting pressure on your young guys to go out there and say, we need you to go out there and contribute. You can still learn behind two great players and develop your skills without a lot of pressure. So I think like when you consider how the Hornets are playing this year, I think the Wizards could be better come next season. But it is going to be interesting to see once again how the injuries fit into this. Like, how do you get at least a relatively healthy Anthony Davis at this point in his career to really help build upon that? Because I think he plays a crucial part in how far the Hawks are able to push things next season. So that would be my one caveat, like the one asterisk to be like, all right, there's one thing that puts this into question. And I think it's Anthony Davis's health.
Yeah, and then also, dude, real quick shout out to Justin Champagny. Like we talk about Julian Champagny all the time with the Spurs, but Justin Champagny is like just as good. It's just that he's on the Wizards. It feels like, but like you talk about like 3 and D guys, he made like a couple blocks in this game where it was like, oh shit, like I didn't realize he could get up that high, like head to the rim type shit, and then he's hitting threes consistently. Like so, it's like, and he's playing hard like throughout the entire game. So it's like that's just another piece for you to have like going forward if you're able to keep him. And then like they part of the trade with Anthony Davis, they got Jaden Hardy over. He came in and played this game against the Rockets and was just immediately in there, like getting buckets for them, like tough, tough buckets. So it's like going forward, there's a lot of options for them to like round out this team. But I think with all these high draft picks that you have, that like most of them seem like they're like we talked about last year, like they seemed like they hit on all 3 of their first round picks. It seems like these guys are continuing to develop, and then now you have a starting lineup you can fully imagine going forward because they're already on your team, and then now it's just filling out the rest of your roster going forward. And they seem to already have some of those options on the team currently that they can look at like and evaluate as they go into the offseason. So it's stuff like that, man, where it's like I'm gonna be like I'm just warning you, like going into the next season, I'm gonna be like, hey man, the Wizards, I think they'll be right there.
I see. I want to make fun of you, but I did say that I was very high on the Pelicans this season. So, but the Pelicans and Rob Dillingham, I think everything else I can live with and say, oh yeah, that was pretty predictable. That those two completely put my credibility as a sports person just in crazy doubt the way the season has played out. But
Yeah, and the Pelicans are such a weird team where it's like I think they're trying to win, they just suck. It's like Zion's been playing most of the season, and everyone's just like, whatever. Like you guys are just so bad. Where it's like if they were, it's like we should be talking more about Trey Murphy in the season that he's having, and Zion playing like more of a season, and we've talked a lot about the rookies there with Queens and Fears, or Queen and Fears, and it's just been like so there should be more talk with the Pelicans, but the disappointment is real.
yeah,
But all right, the last thing I had, it was just real quick, kind of like a little mini like congratulations celebration. The Bulls ended their win streak or losing streak. They lost every single game of February, and then they come into March and they put a hilarious win on the Milwaukee Bucks, where they scored 27 straight points, starting in the last couple minutes of the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter. They just were hitting every single shot, and the Bucks couldn't get any good shot up. And I'm not gonna lie, like it wasn't a game I was originally going to watch, but then I saw that like scoring streak happened. I was like, all right, what the hell? And it was like their first game that they had won because they lost all of March. I was like, or February. So I was like, all right, I need to watch this game. And I kept waiting for it to happen. I was like, okay, like, what's the first bucket? Like, when does this actually happen? And you could just see it, man. Like they started, like Matas and these guys started scoring in the end of the third quarter, and the Bucks just like they looked lost, man. They couldn't stop anything. It was tough to watch the Bucks come down the court, put up a terrible shot, and then the Bulls were like, "Okay, mine," and then just run down and score. It was like that for like 10 minutes straight. It felt like it was tough. It was hilarious to watch against a Bucks team that I've grown to just have disdain for because of their coach and some of the players. But like, and well, now the owner too. He's the same owner as the Cleveland Browns. So yikes. But yeah, it was just cool to see the Bulls have that moment where it was like because they have all these new. Like, it was funny too because they were talking about like all these new players that they got at the trade deadline. They didn't know what it was like to win as a Chicago Bull because every single one of them since they've been traded, they've just lost every single game. So then it was cool to see like Kobe White be out there like high energy, being like let's fucking go, like come on, come on, come on, come on. They're all like screaming like high energy, and it was cool to see guys like Giddy and White and all of them come in and like Yabu. It was just so funny too with the Bulls, man. We talked about when they made all these trades, like they don't have like a center outside of Nick Richards. Like they just don't. Like they have like one kid from Riverside, California, over here where I live, who like doesn't get minutes. So they were starting Yabu at the five at the beginning of this game, and it was like ugh, I don't know. And then Nick Richards comes in and gives them some good minutes, and Matas Bazelis looks awesome. And it was like it was a really fun watch, man. Just like to see a team like break through and finally get that win, and the crowd was so into it. It was like you could tell that the crowd like in the third quarter, like the moment the Bulls got that lead and started just continuing to like go on this 27 to 0 run, it was like this. It was just a fun basketball moment to like witness.
do you think that immediately gets canceled out when Rob Dillingham tries to perform a soccer move?
Um,
I don't even think he tried to before. It was an accidental soccer move.
so I was trying to live in the moment. I was just kind of thinking like in the present, which is like I think what you have to do when you're a fan of a team like that. Which luckily well, actually, unluckily, I kind of am a fan of a team like that. Sixers aren't too far off lately, but yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like if you're a Bulls fan, you're like, let's just sit in this, let's enjoy it. Like this was a great moment. It was one of the best moments of the season, I would say. Like a 27-0 run is fucking crazy. So to do that, just enjoy that moment, and then yeah, the next day you're like, oh yeah, then there's Rob Dillingham like performing, soccer moves that we saw them like Pele do. But okay, cool. Or sorry, football moves, whatever you want to call it. I know you get
There we
upset.
go.
You get upset when I say soccer, even though
I
that's
get
what they called
upset.
it too. Whatever.
I hate the defensive. Well, that's what they called it first. Like, like it, you know. Once again, it feels like a you started it first, like a little kid thing.
While
For
I'm
me and
living
my
in this messed up fucking country, I'm still gonna call it soccer.
just disrespect towards soccer, towards Harry Potter. Like you've covered a lot of disrespect in the past 2 hours.
Hey, give me something else. I'm full of it. So give me something else to disrespect. I'll be right here.
Kevin Batula. No, okay, we
Yeah, I don't have to do that.
uh,
His own players do, so we're good
yeah
there.
covered a lot of
You
ground
saw
there.
that report card? All right. Uh, yeah. Well, by the way, actually, because we're coming to the end of the show, we will be having a football show soon because there's gonna be a lot to catch up on some
Yeah,
interesting trades and moves that have been going on. So,
free
well,
agency starts this Wednesday, so that
yeah.
will be the kickoff. well, technically it's already kicking off, and I think by come Monday we'll already know a lot of the signings, and then they just can't officially announce it until Wednesday when the actual league season starts. But
Is what the legal tampering
yeah,
period or
legal
whatever.
tampering period, which is so dumb. Like
It's
you
just like preseason for free agency, but like
yeah
everything that
like
just happened.
I I I I'm trying to understand like any senses of like, oh well, like it gets a head start on the whole process, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter. Like you could wait 2 more days and say nothing happened, like nothing's supposed to happen, and it doesn't affect anything. There is no rush to try to say, oh, we need a like you said, a preseason for free agency. Like it's dumb.
We'll see what happens, man. With the, I just all right. All right. Anything else we need to talk about? All right. Good stuff, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching some of these games tonight, like rewatching the ones that happened. Jason Tatum's debut. There's a lot more storylines to pay attention to, but man, I love March basketball. It's just like everyone kind of honing down, and you got bad teams playing bad and good teams trying to figure out their rotation. So can't wait to see how the season ends. And oh my god, I can't wait for a playoff preview show that we do because I'm getting more and more excited about these potential matchups. Even the NBA website now has got the bracket up of like who would be playing each other right now. So, which unfortunately means like if it ended today, the Sixers would be playing the Knicks, and that would be probably a quick series if I had to
Yeah.
guess. But give it like I'm so down on the Sixers now. It sucks, but whatever. Hey, and look out for the Hornets, man. They just beat the crap out of Boston last night, and they're moving up, 16-3 in their last 19 games. Kind of crazy.
One
But
final
all right,
thing, and unfortunately I have to update it in real time because the Wizards just lost. Um, the
the Jazz won.
the Jazz counter, which for those of you who don't know, at 25 wins, I have to buy a Jazz jersey, and as things stand, they are now at 19 wins. Yes, 19 wins for the Jazz. They were on like a 7 game losing streak before this, which is why I was like relatively optimistic. I still am. 6 games is a lot to win for the Jazz, and especially a tanking Jazz. But we'll see as things kind of finish out here. That will be something I'm keeping an eye on too.
Good God. Looking at the Jazz record, it is just sad. All right. Well, that's it for our show today. Hopefully, the Jazz go on a win streak here in March to end their season, and we get Jay a nice new jersey. But thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. We'll be back soon with more basketball. And like we said, as free agency kicks off here with the NFL, we'll be doing a show for that, giving our thoughts and maybe some like reviews of what everything that's gone on. So looking forward to that. But thank you everybody for listening and watching. Appreciate everyone who's subscribing to the channel. We'll keep pumping out content, and we hope all of you contribute and add and like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. We love all any interactions we get with y'all. So really appreciate it, and we'll see you all again next week.